At precisely 03:12 UTC, a blinding streak of light hurtles through the darkened sky over the Pacific Ocean, an unstoppable force, a hypersonic missile launched by a rival nation. The target, a heavily fortified military base, the linchpin of NATO's defense network in the region. The missile streaks at Mach 10, faster than the speed of sound, evading all forms of interception. The Aegis system, known for its formidable defense capabilities, locks onto the incoming projectile, but it's too late. The warhead hits its mark, causing an explosion that reverberates miles across the ocean. In real time, thousands of screens flash with red alerts across command centers. A command is issued in a cold, calculated tone: prepare for immediate retaliation. This is no longer a simulation. This is the new reality of modern warfare. A Cold War of a new kind, with hypersonic missiles altering the strategic balance. Don't just watch, engage. If clear-eyed military analysis matters to you, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your voice fuels our mission to deliver truth beneath the headlines. As the aftermath of the missile strike settles, a cold, tense silence fills the command rooms. The world, on the edge of a new arms race, has just witnessed the true power of hypersonic weapons. These new-age missiles, capable of traveling at speeds greater than Mach 5, have left the world scrambling for countermeasures. The strike has sent a clear message: conventional defense systems, even advanced ones like the Aegis or THAAD, are no longer guaranteed to intercept these high-speed threats. In response, NATO's High Command orders a rapid mobilization of assets. U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, including the USS Nimitz, pivot toward the strike zone, ready to project power. Fighter jets, including F-22 Raptors, take to the sky in a defensive posture. Their mission is clear: provide air superiority, assess damage, and set the stage for the next phase of the conflict. But this is no longer just about defending against conventional threats. Across the Pacific, Chinese and Russian naval fleets are on high alert. Both powers have been developing hypersonic weapons for years, and their test launches have proven devastating. In a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, Russia's Zircon missile and China's DVIDS glide vehicle become the focus of NATO's defense planning. The question is no longer if these weapons will be used, but when and how. Back at NATO's European Command, the atmosphere is one of heightened urgency. The Pentagon's war room is flooded with intelligence, much of it gathered from real-time satellite feeds. The pace of decision-making has accelerated. Time is no longer a luxury. The power to retaliate is key, and the U.S. military has no intention of losing its edge. Meanwhile, at the heart of the simulation lies an ever-increasing risk: the vulnerability of America's allies. European nations, heavily dependent on NATO's missile defense systems, are now in the crosshairs of the new arms race. If hypersonic weapons become standard, even the most sophisticated defense systems may be powerless. Thus, NATO must adapt. The shift is swift and decisive. Additional missile defense systems are moved into place along the Eastern European corridor, and the U.S. military begins laying the groundwork for an experimental defense shield designed to counter hypersonic threats. The escalation is underway, but no one truly knows where it will lead. As NATO scrambles to put together its defense response, an intense game of cat and mouse begins to unfold across the skies and seas. In the Western Pacific, American aircraft carriers, with their escorts of destroyers and submarines, are preparing for what could be the most complex naval engagement since the Cold War. The F-35 Lightning II, known for its stealth capabilities and advanced avionics, is deployed for reconnaissance missions, gathering critical intelligence on enemy positions and missile launches. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy's Aegis ballistic missile defense system is updated with the latest software to enhance its tracking and interception capabilities, attempting to keep pace with the rapidly evolving threat of hypersonic missiles. On the ground, NATO is not only focused on the maritime dimension of the conflict, but also on the development of new defensive strategies. The U.S. Army, in conjunction with its allies, accelerates the deployment of the next generation of terminal high-altitude area defense THAAD systems. These systems, designed to intercept short, medium, and intermediate-range missiles, are the last line of defense against a hypersonic strike, but their effectiveness against these new threats remains untested. The geopolitical fallout is just as profound. European nations facing the immediate threat of missile strikes rally behind NATO's Collective Defense Agreement, Article 5. But the calculus has shifted dramatically. In the age of hypersonic warfare, the notion of deterrence is becoming increasingly fragile. Can NATO maintain its dominance in global military power, or will its reliance on outdated missile defense technology leave its allies exposed to new, faster, and more lethal weapons? Meanwhile, diplomatic channels are heating up. Behind the scenes, high-level talks between NATO and Russia begin as both sides seek to avoid all-out war. But the specter of conflict looms larger than ever. In these tense negotiations, the role of hypersonic weapons is a central point of contention. The U.S. administration pushing for arms control measures faces a hard choice: engage in strategic negotiations to limit the use of hypersonic weapons or double down on new game-changing technologies to maintain superiority. As the hours pass, the world teeters on the edge of a precipice. The unpredictability of hypersonic warfare has upended traditional notions of military deterrence. Nations that once thought themselves immune to such threats are now rethinking their defense strategies, realizing that the arms race has entered a new phase one in which speed, precision, and power have reached unprecedented levels. The tension is palpable across NATO's command centers as a new phase in the conflict begins to unfold. It's not just a battle of military hardware anymore. This is a test of strategy, technology, and the very concept of power projection. As the clock ticks down, nations move their assets into position, preparing for a potential full-scale escalation. On the front lines of this new arms race, the United States rolls out its latest technological advancements to counter hypersonic missiles, the Gladiator system. This system, designed to intercept missiles at hypersonic speeds, is untested in battle. But NATO's decision to field it signals a new chapter in defense strategy. With a range capable of detecting and tracking even the fastest-moving targets, the Gladiator is humanity's last chance to stop a hypersonic missile mid-flight. However, even with these innovations, the questions remain. Can it work in real-world conditions? Can it counter missiles traveling at 10 times the speed of sound? Meanwhile, the Chinese and Russian forces aren't idle. Russia's military, having long spearheaded the development of the Zircon missile, prepares to test the missile in a real-world combat scenario. The Zircon, capable of speeds exceeding Mach 9, is designed to evade traditional missile defense systems through its unparalleled speed and maneuverability. Unlike ballistic missiles, which follow predictable trajectories, hypersonic weapons like the Zircon can change direction mid-flight, making interception exceedingly difficult. This feature makes them ideal for striking high-value, heavily defended targets like NATO's advanced military bases or the U.S. Navy's carrier strike groups. On the diplomatic front, the situation grows more dire. The United States, facing mounting pressure from both allies and adversaries, enters into tense negotiations with Russia and China. The stakes are higher than ever before. There is no longer the luxury of slow-moving discussions. This is about survival. Global peace hangs in the balance, with both sides leveraging their military might as they attempt to force each other into submission. As NATO's leaders convene behind closed doors, the military strategies begin to diverge. Some advocate for the acceleration of anti-hypersonic missile technologies, pushing the U.S. to develop new systems capable of neutralizing the threat. Others argue for a focus on diplomacy, seeking international agreements to limit the proliferation of hypersonic weapons. But as the minutes tick away, it becomes clear the time for talk may soon be over. The hours blur as NATO's defense posture tightens. The global response to the hypersonic threat is shifting from theoretical to immediate. NATO forces continue their rapid deployment of advanced systems like the U.S. Army's upgraded THAAD interceptors, capable of intercepting missiles in both the terminal phase and high-altitude phases. The U.S. also begins testing its directed energy weapons, designed to counter high-speed threats with precision laser strikes. These systems are designed to disrupt the guidance systems of hypersonic missiles, rendering them useless before they can reach their targets. But despite the breakthroughs, NATO's leaders know one thing: the hypersonic missile is still a step ahead. The Zircon missile, tested by Russia, flies over the Arctic, its trajectory virtually unpredictable. It is fired from a Kirov-class battlecruiser positioned off the coast of the United Kingdom, aimed directly at a NATO airbase. The clock is ticking. The missile reaches its target in under 3 minutes, too fast for existing countermeasures to react effectively. The simulation plays out a direct hit. The base, equipped with the latest F-35s and other critical aircraft, is obliterated in an instant. It's a sobering moment for NATO, but it doesn't end there. The damage is not just physical, the political implications are severe. The attack is seen as a direct strike on NATO's ability to project force in Europe and a challenge to the alliance's credibility. Meanwhile, the United States begins a countermove of its own. A U.S. Navy task force, including the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier, is dispatched to the South Pacific in response to China's rapid buildup of its own hypersonic missile systems. In a bold and calculated decision, the U.S. begins covert operations to disable Chinese satellite communication systems, limiting their ability to launch new hypersonic attacks with full coordination. The operation is a success temporarily, but the cost of cyber warfare on this scale is significant. Both the U.S. and China now find themselves in a precarious position where every action seems to trigger a new escalation. The question becomes, what's the next step in this high-stakes game? Simultaneously, within the walls of NATO's command centers, whispers of a dangerous strategy emerge: preemptive strikes. Could the only way to effectively counter the hypersonic threat be to strike first? Could NATO's intelligence networks pinpoint and eliminate hypersonic missile sites before they are even launched? This drastic approach, while bold, could throw the world into full-scale conflict. The risk is enormous, and the stakes have never been higher. As tensions rise and the stakes grow ever higher, the world watches closely as NATO and its allies prepare for the next move. The military calculus has shifted dramatically. Hypersonic missiles are no longer a distant threat. They are an immediate and lethal reality. The question now is whether a preemptive strike can eliminate the hypersonic missile capabilities before they are fully operational. As intelligence reports flood in from satellites and drones, the U.S. and its NATO partners begin to draw up new plans for strike operations. In the early hours of the following day, NATO's intelligence community pins down a critical location in Russia, a hidden hypersonic missile silo deep within Siberia, well beyond the reach of traditional reconnaissance methods. The target is located near the Russian Arctic Fleet, a strategic asset that could launch hypersonic strikes directly at U.S. allies in Europe. With this knowledge in hand, NATO commands an unprecedented move, an operation known as Falcon's Claw. The plan is both simple and audacious. A U.S. B-2 bomber equipped with stealth capabilities will fly across the Arctic and strike the missile silo with precision-guided munitions. The operation, executed under a veil of secrecy, is designed to cripple Russia's ability to launch further hypersonic attacks. Meanwhile, in the South Pacific, U.S. submarines are moved into position, prepared to launch counterattacks should China's missile systems be activated. With both powers on high alert, the world teeters on the brink of an all-out war. At the same time, behind the scenes, the Pentagon makes a move that is as much about messaging as it is about military strategy. The U.S. President, in a rare public address, delivers a clear warning: we are prepared to defend our allies and protect the global order. If deterrence fails, the consequences will be severe. The words are aimed not just at Russia and China, but at the world. America's role as the maintainer of global stability has never been clearer, but the pressure on the U.S. military is mounting. As the B-2 bomber prepares for its mission, NATO forces in Europe brace themselves for retaliation. Russia's response is swift. Within hours of the attack, Russia's Zircon missile systems are activated, targeting key U.S. military installations across Europe. These missiles are not as fast as the hypersonic systems from earlier in the conflict, but they are deadly nonetheless. In response, the U.S. quickly mobilizes its air defense systems. THAAD, Patriot, and Aegis systems are engaged in an attempt to thwart Russia's incoming missiles. But with the hypersonic threat growing, NATO must fight not only for survival, but for the preservation of its credibility. As Russia's retaliatory missiles surge through the sky, the tension in NATO's command centers reaches a boiling point. The missile defense systems go into overdrive, with Aegis-equipped ships off the coast of Spain and Italy launching interceptors into the night sky. The THAAD systems stationed in Eastern Europe track the incoming warheads, while the Patriot missiles are fired from bases across Germany. In the command rooms, operators hold their breath as each interception unfolds. The pressure is immense. The United States and its allies are fighting a battle not just against missiles, but against the very notion of deterrence itself. The first wave of Russian Zircon missiles begins to impact NATO bases, but not with the level of devastation feared. Despite the hypersonic weapon's unprecedented speed and maneuverability, NATO's advanced systems, backed by years of technological investment, managed to thwart most of the strikes. However, the outcome is far from perfect. Several key military sites are damaged, including airstrips and radar facilities. The cost in infrastructure is significant, but NATO has averted complete catastrophe. But the battle is far from over. The second phase of the retaliation comes in the form of cyber warfare. Both Russia and China launched sophisticated cyber attacks on NATO's military communication networks. A wave of digital disruption floods the communication channels, temporarily disabling real-time missile defense data and scrambling tactical commands. In the midst of this, U.S. naval forces in the Mediterranean face a fresh threat from China, whose DF-21D anti-ship missiles are now targeting NATO's carrier groups. It is a moment of maximum vulnerability for NATO. The U.S. and its allies are fighting a multi-front war where conventional missile defense is tested to its limits, cyber warfare disrupts operational capacity, and high-tech weaponry escalates faster than traditional defense can adapt. With both sides now fully engaged in a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, a new and dangerous question arises: can the international community avoid crossing the threshold of nuclear escalation? In the Pacific, American submarines are on full alert. They are ordered to maintain stealth while preparing for a potential strike against Chinese missile sites. The rapid developments in missile defense, combined with the increasing frequency of cyber warfare, signal that this conflict could stretch far beyond the battlefield. The long-term implications of hypersonic warfare, cyber attacks, and strategic naval operations will reshape the global order. But as the missile defense systems work overtime to block incoming strikes, the sense of time slipping away becomes undeniable. The situation, seemingly under control, is about to take a drastic turn. After Russia's missile barrage and the cyber disruptions, NATO's forces are beginning to regain some semblance of stability. The systems are back online, the damaged infrastructure is being patched up, and the global community takes a collective breath, hoping that cooler heads will prevail. But the unthinkable happens. Hours after the last intercepted missile, a new kind of weapon, previously undetected and unanticipated, emerges from the shadows: a high-tech stealth drone carrying a payload unlike anything seen before. It is the product of years of covert research, a weapon that can bypass even the most advanced missile defense systems. This drone is not just a technological marvel, it's a game changer. It is equipped with a hypersonic glide vehicle (HGV), not to strike from the air, but to infiltrate the defense systems at low altitudes, at speeds exceeding Mach 5. The new weapon is launched from an undisclosed location in the Arctic and proceeds toward the heart of NATO's defense network. As this unexpected threat approaches, NATO's leaders are thrown into disarray. With hypersonic missile defense still in its infancy, this new drone attack is a nightmare scenario. The stealth capabilities of the drone ensure it remains undetected by radar systems until it's too late. The drone's speed is simply too much for the current defense technology to manage, and its trajectory remains difficult to predict. It's a stark reminder that the hypersonic age has not only brought new weapons, but has also created an entirely new category of warfare, one that NATO had not fully prepared for. This unexpected escalation forces the U.S. military to rethink its entire strategy. The war, which had been centered around missiles and cyber operations, now introduces a third layer of complexity: drone warfare combined with hypersonic speed. The first strike by this new weapon hits NATO's command hub in Belgium, one of the most heavily fortified military installations in the alliance. With its defense grid compromised and its communications down, NATO finds itself at a critical crossroads. The attacks leave not only military casualties but also strike at the heart of NATO's strategic command. The implications are immediate. A once seemingly stable alliance begins to crack under pressure as each member state begins to reconsider their place in the unfolding conflict. Countries that were once resolute in their support of NATO begin to voice concerns, fearing that their very sovereignty is at risk in a war where hypersonic drones and missiles are altering the strategic calculus. The military and political consequences are far-reaching, and the pressure on NATO to maintain its unity and effectiveness grows ever stronger. But there's another twist in this already complex web of warfare. Intelligence sources reveal that China has just launched its own version of this new weapon. In a chilling counterattack, Chinese drones equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles are sent toward U.S. military bases in Guam and Japan. As these new threats converge, the world watches as the balance of power shifts dramatically. No longer is the question about missile defense or conventional warfare. It's about a new era of global confrontation where stealth speed and technological superiority are the deciding factors. As the dust settles from the unexpected escalation, NATO's command structure is left reeling from the revelations. The world, it seems, has entered a new phase of warfare, one in which the technologies once thought to be superior have suddenly been bypassed by the sheer speed, stealth, and unpredictability of hypersonic weapons. The successful use of stealth drones carrying hypersonic glide vehicles has fundamentally shifted the dynamics of global defense strategies. For NATO, the situation has become a matter of rethinking everything from the defensive systems in place to the very doctrines that underpin their global military posture. The concept of deterrence, which had kept major powers at bay for decades, is being tested in ways never before imagined. When hypersonic weapons can evade even the most advanced missile defense systems and stealth drones can infiltrate the most fortified military bases, how do you maintain the balance of power? For the United States, the consequences of this new era of warfare are multifaceted. Firstly, the technological gap between NATO and its adversaries is rapidly closing. The U.S. military, once the undisputed leader in advanced weaponry, finds itself scrambling to catch up with the new wave of threats. Although the U.S. still holds a significant advantage in terms of its nuclear arsenal and traditional military strength, the technological shift has brought a new sense of urgency to defense strategies. The U.S. begins ramping up research into advanced counter-hypersonic systems, directed energy weapons, next-generation missile defense technologies, and even electromagnetic pulse EMP systems to disrupt incoming missiles. Simultaneously, the war in cyberspace intensifies. If hypersonic missiles and drones are the new face of global conflict, cyber warfare is quickly becoming its backbone. Both sides engage in increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks, aiming to cripple each other's military infrastructure. These attacks are now targeting everything from satellite systems to battlefield communications, making it clear that warfare in the 21st century is not just fought on land, air, and sea, but also in the digital realm. The political consequences of these developments cannot be understated. NATO's unity has been shaken, with some European allies questioning the alliance's ability to defend them in the face of these new threats. The power dynamics within the alliance begin to shift as nations like Germany and France, traditionally reliant on U.S. military power, begin to invest more heavily in their own defense capabilities. NATO, once the undisputed pillar of the Western defense architecture, faces a new challenge. Can it evolve fast enough to maintain its status as the central guarantor of global security? The consequences for global security are equally profound. As hypersonic weapons proliferate, smaller nations with less robust defense systems find themselves increasingly vulnerable. The risk of accidental escalation grows exponentially. With weapons capable of reaching any target in the world in mere minutes, miscommunication or a malfunction could lead to catastrophic results. The global order, which had long been based on a balance of power, is now teetering on the edge of a new, more unstable system. As the world stands on the precipice of a new era in warfare, the lessons of this escalation are clear and undeniable. The balance of global power is shifting. The proliferation of hypersonic weapons and stealth drones, coupled with the growing prominence of cyber warfare, is reshaping the very fabric of international security. NATO and the U.S., once dominant forces, now find themselves engaged in a high-stakes race to adapt to these rapidly evolving threats. But in this tumultuous time, there is one unwavering truth. Strength is the only thing that keeps chaos at bay. The costs of this conflict are staggering. Billions have been spent on defense systems, advanced weaponry, and cyber defense technologies, and yet the future of global security is still uncertain. NATO's response to the hypersonic challenge is still in its infancy, with much yet to be developed and tested. And the broader geopolitical landscape has become even more volatile, with alliances being tested and new power dynamics emerging in real time. The true cost of this conflict, however, is not just in financial terms. It is the risk of destabilizing the global order, a reality that could have far-reaching consequences for decades to come. If the balance of power continues to shift unchecked, if nations do not come together to mitigate the dangers of this new arms race, the world could find itself on the brink of a much more dangerous and unpredictable future. The very essence of international peace, once maintained by the strength of traditional deterrence, is now at risk. But there is a hopeful message at the heart of this sobering reality. America and NATO remain the pillars of global stability, not because of the weapons they wield, but because of the principles they stand for: peace, security, and the unwavering commitment to defend democracy against any threat. It is through this strength that the global order can be maintained, preventing the chaos that arises when power is left unchecked. In these uncertain times, the words of General George S. Patton echo louder than ever. The object of war is not to die for your country, but to make the other bastard die for his. NATO's strength, rooted in unity and resolve, stands as the ultimate deterrent against those who would seek to disrupt the peace. With these new technologies, the world has entered a new chapter in military strategy. But in the end, it is the power of deterrence, the strength of military alliances like NATO, that will continue to protect global peace. Strength deters chaos. Subscribe and stay informed. History is being written, and we must pay attention.